Good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to our digital transformation, third webinar of our digital transformation series. My name is Shivani Sinarayan, and I'm very pleased to be your moderator here this afternoon. It is 4 p.m. Belize time, 5 p.m. Jamaican time, and 6 p.m. Trinidad and Tobago time. Welcome to everyone. We have a very enlightened conversation with three presenters who will share their experiences with property and real estate management and how it affects the low-touch economy. As we keep hearing about so much now, low-touch economy. We can't be touching, or what do we have to do? So there are so many different technologies that will assist us in property and real estate management for digital transformation. So here we go, everyone. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Our conversation here this afternoon with property and real estate management, we'll touch a lot on this, different technologies, evolution of outsourcing. We're going to hear some very, very interesting points on the evolution of outsourcing. Integrated services, how our buildings, how do we have to work now? Integrated services. And we're going to hear a lot from one of the presenters, Mario, on the panel this afternoon on that. Our property and real estate management, facilities management is indeed changing. The multi-general workplace. Of course, we keep hearing about technologies and digital transformation and the low-touch economy and how we have to now contribute to it. But we can't forget about wellness and productivity. How are our buildings to be designed for wellness and productivity? Are there any technologies that will assist us in this process? What about collaboration? Do we have technologies that will assist us in the process of collaborating better? Co-working and managed workspaces. Personalization. We're going to hear a lot about the smart workplace. We keep hearing this term, the smart workplace. And of course, our presenters will bring lots of information on the smart workplace. We have Cindy, one of the real estate presenters here this afternoon, who will contribute a lot to this conversation, the smart workplace. We have data and analytics, where we have two of the presenters, again, will contribute a lot to this conversation on data and analytics, Steve Duncan and Mario. Of course, automation and AI. Very interesting points now for digital transformation. How property and real estate management, managing facilities management is really changing. What do we have to do now in the new normal, the low-touch economy? We're going to hear a lot about it. Evolution of outsourcing. And of course, Mario will come in the conversation and discuss this in so much detail. The evolution of outsourcing. Outsourcing will increasingly evolve into delivering complex services for our properties, facilities management, maintenance management. We're called all different things. By 2025, it is expected that the global outsource market in FM services, facilities management services, will reach to $1 trillion in value. A very, very interesting point that we will bring forward, the evolution of outsourcing. Yes, we are speaking about innovation. Yes, we are speaking about property and real estate management. And of course, things changing. How are we contributing? Evolution of outsourcing. We're going to hear lots on that. Some of the facility trends, again, property trends with the low-touch economy. Integrated services. We have the C-suite and corporate real estate executives. They will definitely demand more integrated processes. Advisory and transaction services, facilities management, we are expected to be integrated under one point of control. We have Steve Duncan, one of the presenters, that will bring lots of information on the supply chain management and how this is going to change. So integrated services, we're going to have a very, very interesting conversation with that. All of us know about this, the multi-generational workplace. We are made up of so many different persons. We have tech-savvy, urban, educated millennials. They make up the global workforce. By 2020, of course, we're in 2020. So here we are. By then, organizations, a fusion of baby boomers, as we say, Generation X, all of us are in one workplace. Everybody wants something different. How are we going to be working now in the new normal? Our facilities ready for this? Wellness and productivity. In the next 10 years, wellness and productivity shifting is very crucial in employees' recruitment and retention. Are our buildings assisting this process? And we'll hear about, the sick building syndrome. What are we doing for that? How are we protecting wellness and productivity? Are there technologies that will assist us in this now? Of course, we are working in a remote environment. More and more, we will be working in a remote environment. Many of us in all professions, property and real estate management, facilities management, the maintenance of our buildings. We have to do more collaboration. We are doing collaboration. How can technology assist us in this? Better collaboration with our customers, our colleagues. Workers will be the main driver of the workplace strategy by 2025. Companies can expect the existence of more the 3 levels of collaboration: the formal, the informal, and the serendipitous. Collaboration, a very important term. I keep hearing that all the time. Our buildings are changing, our work is changing. Co-working and managed workspaces. Technology is driving a growing appetite for co-managed workspaces. In the evolving dynamics, corporate real estate, this will now become very necessary, more broader range of occupying types. Hence, service offices must be ready to address these needs over the next 3 years. We're going to see lots of changes. We are seeing it already. How can technology assist the process? How can technology assist the process? Some of us, we are managing buildings, we are managing malls. Personalization, people want this. Technology is changing the way we shop. Significantly, we have an impact on the retail portfolio. Persons pushing brands to shift its retail operations to change in consumer demands. Online channels will soon play an increasing different role in the customer journey. We are seeing it already. So we as facilities managers, we as property and real estate managers, how are we now going to be contributing to this? And we will hear about this over and over. We have been hearing about it. The smart workplace. The smart workplace is efficient and the intelligent use of the Internet of Things, right? The IoT. It has made possible the use of 25 billion connected since 2020. So, and before. So we are in the smart workplace. This is what we want to do for our buildings. People that are working in the buildings, and how smart are we really designing our buildings now? How are we contributing again with the technology and the digital transformation? Of course, I know the audience will be very interested in this. Data and analytics. By 2025, data analytics will be critical in addressing our energy savings, reduction of the total cycle costs, business efficiency, and sustainability. In achieving real estate goals, companies must have smart capabilities using data and analytics. And of course, we have Mario here on the panel who will share lots on this, data management and asset management. I don't know about this. I don't know what many of us, our panel, will think about this. Automation and AI. The market for robotics is small, but growing. in 2016, 2018, one of the most talked about trends was RPA. By 2025, technological innovation or immigration will be supplementing the workforce. I see Mario's laughing there. As sensor technologies will change robot applications, the total number, in fact, of maintenance will increase now. So what we're saying, we have robots now coming to do the job. Automation and artificial intelligence. Of course, things are changing. Property and real estate management. How are we managing our buildings at this time? How are we contributing to the low-touch economy? Do we have technologies that can assist us? Are we ready? Culture, well, so many different things will come into this conversation now. People will come into the conversation. So please join me in welcoming our panel here for this afternoon as we discuss. We have a very nice conversation about it, and we ask the audience, please submit on the YouTube and your different platforms. And of course, we'll answer the questions as we go forward. Very engaging session that we are having. So please join me in welcoming Cindy Guevara, our property and real estate specialist from the Ministry of Public Administration and Digital Transformation. Cindy has over 18 years of experience in facilities management and the delivery of corporate services at various capacities for various facilities, actually. She has worked on many different projects. She was responsible for overseeing the outfitting of the 3 TT Connect offices and the iGov TT in our Shogunas office, formation of the Health and Safety Committee also. Cindy was also responsible for overseeing the relocation and outfitting of the ACCA office at the Savannah East. She was also responsible for formation of health and safety committees, another very important aspect for us in the profession of property and real estate management of health and safety. How are we protecting our employees at this time? She has experience in facilities, administrative management of multiple facilities, and provision of real estate management services. We welcome Cindy to the panel. She's definitely going to have lots to contribute in this conversation here this afternoon. Welcome to you, Cindy. We have also part of the conversation, Steve Duncan, Senior Facilities Officer from the Ministry of Finance, Inland Revenue Division. Steve has over 17 years of experience, actually, in facilities management while operating in various capacities, administrating the facilities function in the private and the public sector. He has much experience in both fields. The multi-sector view of facilities management has provided him with an opportunity to view the strengths and the challenges of implementing and promoting this industry as the field, definitely, Steve, continues to emerge, continues to evolve. He has lots of experience in stakeholder management and different technologies in assisting the process as we go forward. Welcome, Steve. Please join me in welcoming Mario Lanz, project engineer from Trinity Exploration and Production Services Limited. Mario has a wide range of experience. He brings forward over 10 years, actually, where he has lots of experience, I should say, in the MEP designs, mechanical, electrical, and the piping designs. He has worked on many projects. He has worked in the St. Vincent and St. Vincent on many projects, the Canwan Island. He has lots of experience in many different projects over the years, where he is bringing to the conversation a lot of technology experience, facilities management, property management, and how this is going to assist us in the process. Please welcome, join me actually in welcoming Mario. We look forward to a lot of his conversations as he takes the floor coming down the road later on. So welcome, Cindy, Steve, and Mario, thank you for being part of this conversation as we move forward. So everybody's looking quite good. The panel, Steve, Cindy, Mario, you all are looking very excited to be here as we bring forward some enlightening conversation. So we're here to discuss, property management, real estate management, how it is changing, how it is evolving with digital. And we hear it all the time. Look, now we are having this in a virtual platform where we may have had it in a room. It would have been so different. So indeed, it is changing. Everything is changing. But let me start this conversation with you, Cindy, by asking, what is a typical life, or the day, I should say? Give me one day, because one day mightn't be enough, but you give me one day in how you spend your job, your day-to-day operations in managing properties, real estate. So Cindy, over to you. How do you spend your day? How do you spend your day?
Thank you very much, Shivani, for that enlightening introduction. Well, I would take it in terms of the day of a facility manager. Again, the facility manager, the position itself has many names, takes on very different descriptions. You've heard building manager, building superintendent, property manager, operations manager. All these essentially refer to the same functions under the facility management services. So that's what you're looking for, really, what you're looking at when you say facility manager. All those descriptions into one, where it refers to the same person. And again, the services covered by a facility manager, you have basically your hard and your soft services that you would have to manage. So your hard services, you're looking at your NEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, those things. Your soft services can refer to your janitorial, pest control, landscaping, waste disposal, all these things refer to your soft services. So all these activities really encompass the functions that a facility manager would undertake. Again, it's not all encompassing. There's a running joke I had in a company where they said, wherever they have things that they don't want to do, they give it to the facilities unit. So we understand what facilities really is part of everything that happens in the organization, whether we want to admit it or not. But a typical day for a facility manager, again, I would think the first thing they would want to do, again, because you're maintaining the facility, so you have to ensure the facility is in good condition. So what you do, your inspections. So your inspections mean actual physical interaction with the facility. So you go through different facilities, different services. So you check your generator, you check your pumps, you check your lighting, your AC. It's an actual physical check that you would do by walking through the facility to make sure these services are functioning properly. While you're doing that as well, you may be taking readings, taking information on the temperature, checking the thermostat, seeing what the readings are. You're assessing the building on that physical level, right? So there's a physical presence on the building. Again, now, what do you do with the information? What do you do with that data? So as you record the information, you record that data on what you're finding on the building. You put that information into a written format, a service report of some format, right? The next step would then be to have that information available for future use. Now, again, we're looking at the traditional FM industry right now, where right now it may be more paper-based. There may not be a BMS system on the building. So you're looking at a very paper-based, highly interactive facility where you have to record the information, keep the information current in order for you to access it. That may be centralized with the FM. It may not be. It may be handled through another administrative arm of the company, depending on your business model, right? So again, physical interaction with the building, manual data collection, data retrieval. That's what you're looking at so far. Some of the interactions again would include, you may have services on the building. So again, you have contractors coming to visit, they do their repairs, you do their interaction with them. That's one part of it as well. You may get a call for an emergency. You have to tend to the emergency. The call could be on your mobile, it could be on your office phone through your extension. Again, more physical interaction with the facility, right? The interaction that you have with the clients, or I should say with the users, essentially will be in the form of your contact through your mobile device, through your service desk if there's one available, or again, calling to the facilities office to get the facility manager, right? In terms of the information that is shared with the facility manager, you need to ensure that information with the facility manager and the administrative units is current in order for you to have usable information, because you may want to get background information on a particular equipment, whether the repairs were completed, a history on the equipment as to what repairs were done, because you may have a failure at the point in time. So you want to have that information available and current that you want to keep on file. That may not always be the case, as we all know, all right? You're also involved in what we would consider breakdown maintenance. So if something occurs on the building, you would then address it when it occurs. Because you have that facility and that highly physical interaction, not utilizing an automated system, you now have to be checking more regularly, doing more physical inspections of the building and keeping more records at hand to be able to mitigate any issues going forward. So again, more physical interaction. So with that now, the information and that, again, what tends to happen to FMs, I'm sure a lot of them can identify with this, that the information is usually downward communication. So you may get a call one day and say, okay, listen, the CEO or senior manager wants to get a new shower installed in his office. You know, so you get these kinds of requests coming in and you just have to facilitate it. So again, you're looking for that collaboration, you're looking for that information in advance to help the facility manager move forward from there. So the hats that the facility manager has to wear is really varied in terms of what they do, how they provide the service, how they interact with the customer, with the end users, and you know how they can then deliver on that as well. So essentially, what you have is at this point in time is a traditional FM. As we look at the digital transformation that we're moving towards right now, which COVID-19 has more or less thrust us into. We're essentially looking at that digital, traditional FM in an environment where digital transformation is quickly approaching and we have to catch up with it. Yeah, so we have to be ready for that to move forward.
So very true, Cindy. You know, I'm listening here and I'm just thinking you could get a headache very easily, right? You could get a headache very easily. So the day in the life of a facilities manager, a property manager is very, very, very interesting, right? It's very interesting. It allows us to see a manual system. That's what I'm thinking, you know, Cindy. It is a manual system. It's a system that if I need something, I have to go and look for it from, you know, we have to go send out a technician, go and look to see if the AC is down, you know, it's not automated. It's not automated. And we have so many issues coming out of that. We have so many issues coming out of that. So it is a very interesting conversation to start this whole thing with. How do we do business right now in property and real estate management? Everything you're saying there, it makes me think it's just emergencies. That's how we operate. We operate that somebody will call us and that's what we're going to do. Yes, we may have all the different plans, but technology really is going to help us. And that is the direction that we want to take the conversation, the different technologies. Something you said there is a little pet peeve of mine, right? You spoke about the soft services. You spoke about soft services. And janitorial services is definitely one, right? Janitorial services. So we know we may set up an excellent what? Scope of work, an excellent scope of work for janitorial services. We get the contractor and everything is excellent. Everything is good. We do the job and the job is completed. We do walkthroughs, as you said, that's how we do the job, right? We do walkthroughs. We looked at it and it looks good. The chair looks clean to me. The ground, everything looks good. But what you think coming to the desk, Cindy? You're hearing a lot of complaints, right? And you're hearing senior management complaining about something. You're hearing junior staff complaining. You're hearing everybody complaining about something. So can technology help us in this, right? And I want to bring in Steve here in the conversation. Can technology assist that process? I don't know if it's having less complaints, Steve, but in terms of soft services, these janitorial services, security services, I mean, Cindy started the whole talk about property management as being, you have hard services and you have soft services. And the hard services, the MEPs, right? The mechanical, the electrical, the plumbing, that's hard services, as we'll know. Then we have the soft services, which is janitorial, security, pest control. And I mean, we're here to discuss technologies, how we contribute into the low touch economy. We have to do it as low touch now. Things changing. So Steve, let me bring you in the conversation. Could you share some technologies that will help me, that when people call the office and say, well, the chair not looking clean to me, I will get some help, right, Steve? So let me bring you in the conversation here with different technologies now, different technologies that could assist us in the process. Because we know we developed the thing good, you know, we developed the scope of work, we got it approved, everything went well, but now we're still hearing complaints. Yes, Steve, take it away.
Yeah, I think definitely that the levels of expectation for in-house services provided by contractors that we are dependent upon for janitorial, pest control, even security operations, all require now more than ever a review of how we have done things. Operations and maintenance, I guess, traditionally has always had, as Cindy has alluded to, that manual field day. We had to get involved on the ground. And scope of works have worked. Janitorial providers have been providing services for years. But of late, more than ever, you'll always get the usual complaints coming up from in the office. But how those complaints are received and treated with defines a lot about the perception of the performance of the facilities manager. So you're right, as you said, how do you verify that our area was actually vacuumed? How was it cleaned? And now we have been looking at the need to repurpose existing technologies. So you know you have your CCTV systems that are managed by the security function. That could be incorporated in your monitoring and your evaluation of the performance of the janitorial contract in the first instance. You're also considering possibly the use of RFIDs, which will allow you to have the ability to pinpoint the location of your service personnel on the plant. And that's going to add further support to your occupational health and safety needs for emergency management scenarios that you would encounter. The interesting thing is that COVID-19 has also driven the ideas about how to solve the problem by looking into technologies that have always been around, but now seem to be more relevant. So you have your UV light applications that we were familiar with using on HVAC systems. Now you have UV lights that are available that you can use for disinfecting surfaces and also for verifying whether or not the surface has in fact been cleaned effectively. But of course, the issue is the point of contact. So your service test is very important to you. So whereas you have your manual systems that you would have probably started using basic software, Excel programs, or you may be working with staff that may not have been actually familiar initially with the need to manage all this information, because people keep calling every minute, complaining about one thing or the next. You end up recognizing now that you could actually utilize your existing facilities management team to support not just the collection of the data, but also starting to look at how that data can be utilized to interface with the other departments in your organization. Because if your financial department, for example, they may need to understand that the cleaning products that they've been accustomed purchasing may not, in fact, be doing the job that we believe they're supposed to be doing. Look at the introduction of the use of Clorox, a diluted solution of Clorox and water for sanitizing surfaces. That has now has created a risk of damaging finishes inside of your department. I have some areas that I've recently encountered that have little small spots on it as a result of a janitor passing through, being effective in cleaning a door handle, but in so doing, the mist ending up in another location. But that information and how it is recorded and how it is looked at and analyzed, because a lot of information, how do you simplify it, and how do you bring it to a state where you can actually recognize that recommendations can be derived from it? Require now the integration of other types of technologies. I mean, you already have your AutoCAD systems, which will help you manage your space. You have your building information modeling systems that will help you with the design process, that you can actually create 3D designs. And in Cindy's case, even the GIS or geographical information systems will allow you to pinpoint the best possible locations for your offices in the future, and give you a sense as to whether or not you actually have a building that actually meets the strategic direction of the organization. But there's a lot of information to manage. And the only way you can actually approach managing that is to look at other types of systems that collate that information. And I think Mario would probably be the best person to speak about that at some point, those building management systems. But of course, that frustration will continue, I think. Facilities managers will have a greater challenge, because now you're looking at an environment that now has less and less individuals in it, but it's a space that is now that puts people first. But facilities management always looks at that integration of the people, the processes, and the places. But now more than ever, the importance of the perception of the employee who's in that environment, who requires an understanding that they are safe and that they're in a clean space that allow them to be productive, that becomes the next edge of the situation that we have to face.
Thank you, Steve. So you mentioned something with a building management system. And of course, we as professionals in the industry, how are we to contribute working remote? That's what a lot of us are doing now, remote buildings. You know, how do we manage the buildings, as what you were saying, Cindy? If our way of doing business is to actually go now and look at the AC and see if it is working, or determine if the lights will go, how can we function with low touch economy? How could we function without having to go and look all the time? How can we become more efficient? And this is where the whole conversation of building management systems come into play here. But building management systems, as Mario will really converse about, it's a costly thing to do, right? And there are so many different factors to consider. You know, I myself, I have seen it. I have seen if it can work, if it cannot work. So Mario, you'll converse with this, building management systems, and how a building management system can assist us as a technology. It's been there. Can it do it, right? So thank you, Mario.
Thank you, Shivani. So with the onset of COVID-19 and SARS-CoV-2 virus, it has definitely taken its toll on the global economy and facilities management in general. But FMs and property managers can play a part in forging new strategies, not only to reacting to the current pandemic, but also in the recovery process. So as a society now, as we move towards contactless or becoming socially distanced, buildings and workspaces and the people that utilize it must now adapt in function to operate under these new parameters. So one of these ways of adaptation is through the use of building management systems. And simply put, a building management system, or BMS, it allows full integration of and control over facilities, systems, and subsystems. Those systems include lighting, HVAC, power system, CCTV, security. And this ties in well with some of the points that Steve would have just touched on. So the provision of a BMS system can provide several benefits to an organization. For one, it gives the client flexibility. As buildings become less occupied, more people are at home, property managers, building owners may consider changing building usage or changing the purpose of a space. And that could be easily tweaked and adjusted using a building management system. We have remote monitoring of equipment, and critical equipment can change from organization to organization. I mean, we have an array of building types, from office buildings, retail, even hospitals. And all devices that are connected to this BMS can be monitored and can alert maintenance personnel if there is a problem. So you can imagine the issues that would arise if, for instance, the HVAC system in a quarantine or isolation room at a hospital, especially given the times that we're in, something were to go wrong with that HVAC system while there is a patient inside the room, that could be something detrimental. So the remote monitoring of equipment can drastically reduce downtime and can potentially aid in troubleshooting equipment issues or system issues. It also gives the availability and options for scheduling of equipment activity, remote scheduling, and that allows the property managers to fully customize the occupancy levels of your building or your space. Most of the time in certain office buildings, you have, lights running 24/7, air handlers running 24/7. And these are things that can be scheduled and operated to improve efficiency. All right. So in addition to that, the implementation of a BMS system can also, if you are renting your property to tenants, it could be used to accurately bill accordingly for utilities and services. There are many projects that I would have worked on up the island, especially in Canoan and Dominica, that utilize this sort of technology. And of course, energy efficiency, it plays a part in energy efficiency with direct control of equipment and with the overall aim to lower the building owner's power consumption. So in essence, it leads to lower operational costs. Now, the implementation of a BMS system now gives the property manager or facilities manager access to loads of data. And this data can be analyzed and trended to help make strategic business decisions. And that access to data can be a specialized tool for, certain things like changing your building space, changing your building purpose, or possibly, identifying areas of your property where you might consider repurposing and renting or changing lease agreements. So there are several drawbacks to the implementation of these systems, especially in a retroactive sense. Most of the buildings that we occupy are well into the life cycles, and they do not lend themselves readily to be converted to smart buildings. And there are several reasons for that, some of which are that the buildings just lack the ICT infrastructure to handle all the data that is ready to be, moved and analyzed. So a robust communication backbone is needed. So the system is data driven. If you have incompatible equipment, then it will be costly to replace that equipment and make it compatible for your system. Some systems do not lend themselves readily to integration, like plumbing or power control in a standard installation. If you're doing this as a retroactive installation, a lot of property managers suffer from lack of as-built information. Sydney and Steve, you all might testify on this, but there are many professionals where I go into a building, there's a problem, you ask, where are the drawings? Oh, we don't know, we don't have them. Things are basically done on the technicians are the one that have the information, and therefore the information stays in silos. Another drawback to the BMS systems is your high project costs. So the cost of smart devices and sensors, and additionally installations, are quite labor intensive. So in all, the system is only as good as the owner or property manager decides to capture the information that they want to capture. So the decision should really come from a decisive strategy and understanding for the need of a BMS system. So the implementation of BMS systems are best done in new construction. However, with proper investigation, a detailed cost-benefit analysis and feasibility study can be done to determine if an upgrade to an existing facility is worthwhile.
Thank you, Mario. A very interesting conversation with building management systems. The importance of a building management system, actually, the importance of a BMS, a building management system. Could it assist us in property management? Could it assist us to manage our buildings where we can know if the AC needs to change, a part needs to change without having to send a technician there? And yes, it can. As you said, a building management system can tell us all these things. We will be able to get live data. We'll be able to manage the system, the entire facility with a building management system. However, you brought forward many points. Yes, it is technology, but we have to see how it can be done. We always have to look at the strategic point about it, the organizational strategy behind implementation of a piece of technology. It's very important, and I'm very glad that you brought that point up. It is a decision that you can't take lightly, as you said. If you have, for instance, if we have buildings and we now want to implement a building management system, the retrofitting of it might be very, very costly. Not might be, will be very costly, as you said, Mario, and decisions will have to be made. Does it make sense to go that way? So you have to do a cost-benefit analysis. You have to know the importance of it, and depending on your strategic plan and the direction that you want to go. But definitely it is a piece of technology that can assist property managers, real estate professionals, facilities management, maintenance professionals in our industry. It can assist us, as you said. But it's a project of implementation, and we have to go through a whole step in analyzing it in terms of our strategic planning. So excellent stuff, Mario, building management system. Thank you for that. Many conversations to come from that. Building management system, we could probably take about 3 hours and discuss the advantages and the disadvantages of it. You're looking at as if you want to discuss so much more. So we'll definitely leave that for some other webinars down the road. The importance of a building management system and how it can improve, different training that we can do for it. So, low touch economy, we are bringing forward technologies, how it could assist us in our buildings and how we manage our buildings, our properties, our real estate. Very important. Do we see, we have to work, this is how we are working, our profession right now, in terms of managing remote teams. That's what we're doing. We have facilities technicians, electrical, plumbing, contractors, managing buildings, many buildings. A lot of us, you all are managing many different buildings in many different areas. It's not all in one area. Do we see advantages and any disadvantages? I mean, once you see pros, you'll see cons. Everybody will have a different point to take. Do we believe that we are working better remotely versus not? Anything you all want to bring into the conversation? Steve, I know you'll have lots to say about that. Some of the advantages and disadvantages. Well, I see you are still in your office at what point? At 6:45. So you are there in your office right now, right? So you are not working remotely. You are live in your office, right?
Yeah, I'm live in my office, but I do have members of staff out there who are working remotely. And the interesting thing is that the flexibility has in fact improved productivity. That's a plus. That's a plus. And I think that now more than ever, once facilities managers recognize that their role as a change agent in encouraging the organization to integrate a lot of its processes, or also to map those processes, because now you have staff working remotely, and now you have to have a way of managing their outputs on a day-to-day basis. I also recognize that it has fostered a lot of teamwork that didn't necessarily always work well before, because teams are going through different stages of growth. Now, everyone seems to recognize that with how work rotations are going, how one person's output contributes to another person's input, and the timing which activities are done. I recognize that a lot of project management methodologies are being introduced. So whereas
our favorite.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But on the downside though, there would be the challenges with connectivity. Not all employees will have their reliable internet provider at home. And sometimes now, particularly with rotation and how school is going for those who have children at home, that also could present and has been presenting some interesting challenges. Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. Working remotely. Yes, our profession, facilities management, property management. Yes, we have to we working remotely. If we don't have a building management system, we may have to go to the office. That's what we are saying. How do we manage? We have different remote teams that we can execute. Are we using project management apps? You know, that we can actually just see the status and everybody update. So things are changing, yes, and we can do it. We are looking at advantages, we are looking at disadvantages. Of course, you have different technologies, as you keep saying, and all of us are saying it. But a main point is understanding what? Is understanding people, right? My colleagues, this is what we will talk about all the time, the people and the culture and how that is impacted so much now with technology. Yes, we have technologies, but you can't just implement technologies just like that. You have to understand culture and you have to understand people. So use two favorite words of mine, change management, right? Change management. And of course, it's project. So it's a project probably to get people to understand and get people to buy into the concept. But we didn't have time this wrong, sir. You had to just do it. You had to be agile, Steve, right? Agile. So of course, technology is there and we have to use it. But many factors come into play there. So Cindy, what do you want to contribute to this now? I'm sure you have a lot to working remotely.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Steve. I mean, today I'm working remotely as well. So I was able to prepare myself for this meeting today. So I'm happy about that. You know, well,
oh, that's not your office? Okay, I thought that was your office too, right?
Don't get me wrong. You know, but so there are definite advantages from a human resource perspective. You know, these synergies that you create among the teams that you have. You know, the dependencies that you can see now working together, everybody pulling their weight, and it will help develop and help your staff grow in that respect. From a facility perspective, what I think we can also look at, because sometimes you may think, okay, fine, you know, a lot of staff are working from home, there's less people in the building, so then there should be less work for the facility manager. Less work or less persons or less physical bodies in the building doesn't necessarily mean that you have less work. The facility is still running. You still have to be able to perform your services, get equipment viewed depending on the system that you have, whether you have a traditional FM environment or the BMS, which again, which you're trying to move towards. There's still monitoring and reviewing of systems and operations at the office. Again, another way to look at it in terms of innovation for the companies. With this home COVID situation right now, a lot of companies are working from home, which means that their facilities may be underused. So what can come out of it as well is a bit of innovation, maybe change their business model to a little bit to a degree, where they can now lease out space. Because you now have that reduction in workspace, you're able to manage your existing space for your staff members a little more efficiently. And with that, bringing or lease out your space to other companies who may have to give up their facilities to now find other ways of working. So that's one way I see, you know, where we can try and be a little innovative in terms of
leases. Yeah, lease your property. Lease your property if it's not being used. Yeah. Yeah, excellent, excellent. And you know, yes, a point I was looking at too, shared services, as you said, sometimes now you have less occupants, right? So you may have just 5 alone. So good, you could team up with another company and you could share services, share areas, and you share the rent, right? So of course, that's a major advantage that we need to take more out of, you know, to take up and really look at. Shared rental spaces of some of the properties, whereas because you don't need all these people, or because a lot of people will be working rotation, as you said. So interesting points that you brought forward here. So thank you for that. So you are seeing a lot of advantages.
Just one other thing as well, as you mentioned, the millennials in the beginning, that new type of workforce again, they will welcome this kind of environment because again, the flexibility that they have, that's what they're looking for essentially. They're looking to see,
The younger workforce, you said?
yes, that's right, the millennials. Essentially is what, what can the space, do for them, right? And what can they do in the space, you know. So something to
Thank
consider
you.
as well.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very big point, Cindy. Thank you. Mario, yes, and anything you want to share with this? Advantages, disadvantages of us in working remotely?
Yeah, so from on the employee side of things, I think there's a transition that's taking place where people have to get out of the idea of working from in one fixed place for a given set of or period of time. There's been a transition from hours of work to deliverables, meaning that your employee effectiveness is not just measured by your hours of work. It's measured on what you deliver during the week, during on a daily basis, where that flexibility gives you the opportunity to deal with. I mean, as family oriented persons, you have kids at home. Things come up, and the hours, the exact hours of 8 to 4 you may not be able to give or contribute all of your time, especially with school out, to your job. So that kind of throws off your organization KPIs if you are tracking hours on a project or hours on certain activities, because now you have hours assigned where your employees are trying to do things, but it has to now happen over an extended period of time, and that has a psychological impact. Could lead to fatigue. So it's definitely a transition that has to happen. And I think it will take time for it to happen for people to adjust.
Time, a major one. A major one, time. Thank you. So we are seeing so many advantages, disadvantages of working remotely and how we have to do it. There are many different innovations that are coming out of it. So Steve, I know we mentioned about supply chain at the beginning, supply chain management. What do we have to consider now with property and real estate with the supply chain? Supply chain, how is that affecting different technologies that we have to use?
Well, if we take the starting point of the manual FM practitioner, who then recognizes the availability of technology on the market that will make his job function easier, that's incorporating that into service desk operation, where he starts to accumulate a lot of data and then utilizes the building management system and other computer-aided facility management systems for him to get to the point of being able to analyze and identify trends in the organization. It would mean now that it forces the FM to start to integrate with the accountants and the procurement departments within their organization and senior management by providing that data as a platform for informing decisions going forward. So that your supply chain, which will obviously be stretched by the recent experiences we have in this pandemic, will now require you to have a better understanding of the relationships you have with both your internal and external customers, how transactions are managed in terms of the accounting process for payment of vendors and suppliers, and how important that end-to-end consistency is to actually being able to maintain the level of service that we as FMs provide to the organization. In most cases, you'll find in private sector, they will be a lot more responsive and proactive, in fact, at solving these problems that would arise. So that you would find that in the early stages of the pandemic, when you were faced with shortages of sanitizers and different types of masks on the market, you would find that alternatives had to be identified immediately. So your relationships that you would have with your existing suppliers, you suddenly realize that you if they're unable to supply you, you would have to find new avenues and look at new options of being able to identify alternative products on the market, also being able to manage that ability to pay these suppliers. So I think generally technology on the whole, as it applies to managing those relationships within the supply chain, has to be rethought. We have to take a moment and step back and look at the different maturity levels we have when it comes to using any digital application in the environment. And of course, rebuild it based upon the understanding of the user requirements going forward. Basic in-house services that also are included in your supply chain, because let's face it, we have to provide services both externally and internally to the organization. With the rotation that has been taking place, that has also placed an additional strain on the supply chain logistics within the organization. Being able to supply, for example, if I give you an example of being able to purchase paper for your photocopier, where you would normally have a supplier come and deliver. If you suddenly find yourself in a spot where you cannot have paper supplied to the building because of a new access protocol that may be in place, or the failure of a supplier to meet the access protocol, you have to have an alternative. So those technologies that we would have been speaking about earlier that also require give us an understanding of our inventory management. Remember, you have your service desk gathering all this information. Every time somebody calls to tell you that there's a shortage of toilet paper, or the number one complaint lately of there being no soap, also you to have to look at your contracts and how government approaches acquiring these goods and services. So you can actually input as a FM those amendments that would be required to support your ability to consistently provide a level of service within the organization. So a janitorial contract, for example, you can include in that the provision of consumables, but you also have to have a plan B. What if the janitorial provider is unable to provide soap on a given occasion because they of themselves have a delay on with their supply chain? I can see that there's a need for a lot of relationship management. Of course, it would be ideal if you could call all of your providers into a room and have a lengthy discussion about what is required and how we can respond to things, but that is no longer the case. So now more and more applications for remote communication is important. I can tell you that going forward, you have to approach every single element of your service from an integrated approach. And for the first time, FMs, I think, need to pay a lot more attention to communication. Because I think as the field has developed over the years, some FMs are not strategically positioned within their own organization, because they may simply be seen as a cost center that is always spending money.
Spending money.
And the organization now, the FM has the opportunity now to take that information up that they've reported for spending money to now point to a particular issue. A simple change in the quality of the toilet paper you purchase has an impact on your plumbing system. It also has an impact upon sustainability and whether or not you are moving the goalposts away from balancing the economic and environmental and social impacts of that corporate social responsibility for being able to provide a service. Yes, now that would still be consistent for future generations. So definitely I think at this point, FMs are the drivers of change. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I agree with you totally, Steve. FMs, we are the drivers of change. And the only way that we could do that is by understanding different technologies and people and integrating it properly. So thank you for that. Mario, I know we started this conversation at the beginning with data management and asset management. Of course, we know now that we are managing a lot of our buildings remotely. data management is very, very crucial. A lot of us, we work in organizations. It's not one building we are managing multiple buildings. Some people are not managing it only in one country. They are managing multiple buildings in different countries regionally. So because the industry is a very dynamic industry, as we know. So how do we manage? So definitely I would say that data management is a very crucial thing for us. What about asset management? Do we have this type of technologies that will assist us in the management process? As we keep saying, it's a low touch economy. We have less people in our offices. This is how it's going to be more and more, less people coming into the office. So thank you, Mario. I know you have a lot of exposure in this also, data management and asset management.
Right. So as you said, Shivani, one of the keys to managing a portfolio of assets remotely is having access to data. So where the BMS or the building management system is more centered around customizing the operations of your building, I'd like to introduce something called BIM, or Building Information Modeling, which is an alternative, and it actually leads to the management of the physical infrastructure. Now, everything that I discuss here can be applied from residential to commercial to industrial type assets. So a little introduction to what BIM is and what is its purpose. And the purpose is around the digitization of an asset. And what is the digitization of an asset? Is the purpose of that is to create value where assets can be represented virtually on a remote basis, where the user has control over what they can change and what they can't, which would now represent what you can change in the real world. If you want to change spaces, if you want to change add-on pieces of a building, demolition, things like that, the property manager, the building owner now can have access to that information without going to a third party. So as I said, it's based on data, and that data acquisition could come in many formats. Depending on the size of your project, it could involve simply going and pulling a tape measure and representing what it is you capture in a three-dimensional space. And the technology for data capture, it's vast. It goes from surveys, sending two guys out with a measuring tape, up to laser scan technology with the use of drones and remote capturing technology. So the purpose is to capture the data and convert it to information. And that information is really a construction of an intelligent three-dimensional model of the space. And the data is represented in a common architecture, whether it be CAD or GIS, that you have interoperability between most platforms. So having an integrated model where you have access to architectural, structural, MEP, and even project management issues. There are programs and opportunities for clash detection and resolution of problems. There are opportunities for spatial optimization. And you have the opportunity now for collaboration between all subsets, whether it's interdepartmental, whether it's between specific designers, architects, MEP, structural. It removes the information silos that have been traditionally held, and it allows the project or the property manager to have access to that information. One of the important benefits of having BIM, or building information modeling, is that you can use the model to create an equipment database. And that equipment database can vary from, pumps, HVAC systems, anything that is critical, especially in the last example that I would have brought up with hospitals, and that scheduling, critical space, everything can be customized to the building owner or property manager on how they want to manage it. So some of the cons of this kind of technology, of course, is most of it is proprietary software, and there is a need for multi-skilled persons to interpret the information, to operate the programs. It's time consuming to build the models and to go through the collaboration process with the different departments or different persons. The data management side of it, if anything changes in the physical asset, then that model also has to be changed. If it does not, then the purpose of this model is to be a live document. And if it is not changed, then you have lagging data, and that leads to inaccuracies as you go down the road. Because something wasn't captured, the property manager, whoever forgets about it, a project comes up, they have wrong data, right? So
Wrong
some of
data,
the,
Mario. I have a question here, and I think you're answering it one timer, but let me just bring it forward one as you are in your conversation. Apart from social distancing and sneeze guards, what are some other innovations foreseen for retrofitting spaces to accommodate the public in the next few years? So I know you were discussing the BIM model, right? And probably that could come in the conversation here. Let me
yeah.
just repeat the question again for the audience. What are some other innovations foreseen for retrofitting spaces to accommodate the public in the next few years?
So a lot of the retrofit aspects have already been adopted by, pharmacies, groceries, any organization or business that has to deal with the public or public interactions. As simple as your mandatory screening points for temperature, hand sanitizing, any control points for information or speaking with somebody. There's no plexiglass installed in between you and that person. And so I think a lot of the changes have happened already. And these are the changes that are not really technologically, advanced. So these are the most easy to implement. So the on the BIM side of it, these are the changes that are not necessarily easy to implement, and they have certain costs associated to them. So of course the BIM solution or the BMS solution is not for everyone, and that's why I would always suggest going through a consultant or FM facilities manager to do the proper cost benefit analysis or feasibility study to see if engaging these types of projects is the right way for your organization.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you very much. Yeah. So you're bringing so many interesting points in the conversation. You spoke about the BIM, BIM, and the importance of that now and how it can assist us in property and real estate management. And of course, we need this more and more as we move forward with the low touch economy. But there are many important points that we'll have to talk about as we go forward in the conversation and probably in future webinars. So building management systems, and we have the BIM, the BIM modeling. So thank you very much for that, Mario. Cindy, I know also you would want to share some innovative products, facilities management, property, digital transformation. We have all of these innovations coming out of this thing now. What are some of the innovation products? I mean, we cannot not speak about innovation at this point.
Hi, Shivani. Yes, well, I think Mario have touched on some of them that I was looking at in terms of the BIM and the BAS building of the system. Just to add to that as well, simple things, again, depending on the configuration and the methodology used in your organization. You have simple things like, your smartphones. You want to go paperless where you can get your information readily at hand as one aspect of it as well. You also have what is really a kind of I wouldn't say a hot, but it's on the market, the use of drones. The drone use essentially is for more, again, obviously more external use for, I would say, inspecting roof work, the building fabric to see if there are any cracks and so on in the wall. It is an effective way to some extent of reviewing the building fabric and bringing some level of cost saving to the company in terms of its ability to give you real-time information. So normally, if you have to go and inspect the roof or inspect what you would consider a area that would be a bit hazardous, the building fabric, somebody you need a man lift or you need scaffold or something along those lines. You may incur your problems like this. So you have to rent all this equipment. It's very costly to do this thing, to get the equipment. Put a man in a man lift, set up your scaffold and get somebody up there to go and inspect. And again, it may require you to have to do that at several sections of a particular building, depending on the issue that you have. Whereas if you have a drone and utilize a drone, you can do that very quickly at a very minimal cost because they're not very expensive, I think, on the market. But you can get information very quickly and very easily and at less cost to you. And again, because they have they have very high resolution cameras that you can install on them, you can get very detailed information in the reports and then going forward. From a health and safety perspective, I always try to bring in my health and safety. It's also minimizes the risk as well to the company. Because again, once you start erecting scaffold, once you start using these equipment to lift a human person into the air, and that's then you are putting that person at risk of incidents happening. So it minimizes the risk to the company as well. And we all know it can be very costly if, God forbid, something occurs and an injury occurs and an employee has to be either hospitalized or the worst happens in that regard. So it can say, of course, it's a safer method of retrieving information for the company. Yeah, so that's one of the areas that you can look at as an innovative area as well.
Thank you, Cindy. Definitely, I like the idea of the drones and a very good innovative product.
And again, you can use it at multiple facilities. So whereas you have scaffolding and manufacturing one facility and it's a large facility, you can take the drone anywhere. Whether it's a large field, a large, on a stadium, whatever, in a large building, you have the portability advantage as well.
So some very good innovative products that we are bringing forward, Cindy. Thank you for that. But something that I want to ask, and I know Mario, you will take this question in terms of new business. I mean, we are speaking about property and real estate and facilities management and how the impact with the low touch economy and innovation. But of course, we are seeing new business coming out here. We are seeing a lot of new business, new ideas. It's making me think from employee to entrepreneur, right? At the end of the day. And of course, we want to bring that in the conversation too. We want to bring that in the conversation, technology, different technologies, new business that will be formed, that will form. Next thing we see, new consultancy companies come out from here, Mario, Cindy, Steve, right? So let's hear you, Mario, with some new business ideas, new business that is coming out of this innovation.
So since the COVID pandemic, I think most people would have actually been a little more aware of companies like Europa or Service, where the janitorial services are coming in as something that people are now rushing to, the sanitization services. So that has actually crept up as a business opportunity that some people have been able to capitalize on. Now, on the technology side of things, touching on some of the things that Cindy would have mentioned, there have always been opportunities for facilities management entrepreneurs and persons to branch out and do their own thing. But especially on the technology forefronts, where there are a lot of advantages and drawbacks that I would have mentioned. Some people can align themselves in a position where they may be able to adapt and overcome those challenges, or if they can't, they may consider outsourcing. So the outsourcing aspect of these technology services is now an option for organizations who want to make the change. And there are companies that have started already doing remote monitoring. I know at least of one that does remote monitoring for data centers. And when something goes wrong with critical equipment, they get alerts immediately and inform persons to go on and fix the problem, right? So that definitely is one of the opportunities that will continue to grow in the future. On the issue of modeling or the BIM, there will be opportunities for design studios, designers to get together and with surveyors and put forward this as a service. And of course, with asset management, it doesn't matter whether you're in Port of Spain, Government Campus Plaza, or you're in Point Lisas or you're offshore. The product is still the same and the service is still the same. So it's definitely something that can grow. And of course, now where organizations decide that they want to, completely hand over that FM baton to another company, I definitely see the formation of service contracts to handle that remote monitoring and data management and even situation response if necessary.
Thank you, Mario. So definitely new business. And I know this was one of the questions actually from the audience in terms of outsourcing, and if there's going to be an increase in outsourcing because of the change. And definitely you're saying yes, but it's the different types of technologies and how you want to manage your systems now. After all, it's smart. We need to become leaner in our operations. We need to become much more efficient in how we manage. So yes, definitely products will form, products will come up more and more, innovative products, new business, new consultancy, from employee to entrepreneur. So thank you for that, Mario. We are here discussing digital transformation, and all of us, you all contributed to culture and the impact. Many times you want to do something, you say this is how you're going to have to do it. Well, culture, how to do something, you have to consider that. You have to consider the people aspect so many times that we do. So Cindy, do you believe that in management of the custodians, because that's what you do, that's what we do now, property and real estate management, custodians, janitorial, contracts, etc. And that to me is a very, very important aspect, as all of us will agree. Right now with the low touch economy, we have to keep cleaning, you have to have regular cleaning, you have to know how to clean the doors, all different things that we have to do. But introducing new technologies, how is that going to impact, or how could we think about culture in this aspect?
Well, I think the general culture within the janitorial industry, it has always been, to me, based on my experience at a high standard, based on the companies I've interacted with, has always been at a very high and professional standard. I think for FM in general, that standard really has to be improved, because the confidence that you want to place in your janitorial staff right now, you need to be comfortable that this company or this person is knowledgeable of what is required. So again, the training comes in there, that they have to be properly trained, they have to understand the products that they have to be able to advise you as to what would be the best approach for you to take. So the professionalism and level of professionalism for the janitorial professionals really needs to come up. And I think in a large part they are, because there are a couple of companies that are STORE certified. And this again attests to the level of service and quality service that they plan to deliver. So especially as we're in this time of hygiene and cleanliness, ensuring and making sure that the companies that you're working with have a very good understanding of what is required. And the team that they are working with as well understands that, because you're not looking at the company as a company where they are unable to provide the service, because the team is not performing the service. So you may have good policies, you may have good plans as to how your work is supposed to be done, but the executioner or the janitorial person is not doing that. So that person as well has to see themselves as contributing to the improvement and the cleanliness of workers going forward. So that might
very, very good point, Cindy. With culture, you triggered so many things with me there. How culture will impact when we say the use cleaning, to clean, janitorial, the service itself, the profession itself has changed. It's a profession. It's a profession. It's not you just hiring a cleaner. We are custodians, right? But a point too, you mentioned training. If persons are trained, if we know the type of training, and now there's so many different certifications that custodians can do that is changing the culture. You mentioned points on listening to what they may contribute, to the conversation. They may come about with different ideas. So a lot of ideation sessions can work. A very, very good example coming out of what you said, it just, again, the custodians where I work, actually, they came about with the idea to rent the equipment and actually do the heavy cleaning for themselves, where, we got a little training from the company that we rented it from, and we executed it quite well. So, of course, we have technologies, we have different ways to do things, but you have to consider the people aspect and change management. And how could we do that? Yes, culture, but training. Training is a very, very important tool. And the correct type of training, getting people involved in the training process, getting people involved from ideation to training, to executing the product that you want. So thank you for that, Cindy. A very, very important point that I want to emphasize in our industry with the technology aspect, but we have to think about the proper training for people to execute the job. So that is new business too, Mario, different types of training that we have to offer and that we have to design properly, that people can be engaged and execute the job to the best of their ability, and not only to the best, to take it further. So thanks for that. We are discussing so many new jobs, Steve. Different, I don't know, I said new jobs and Steve Jobs or something, but yes, Steve, right? So you could get into the conversation here, Steve, right? Some new jobs that, how do you see our industry changing with low touch economy now? Low touch economy. Steve, new jobs, new ways, anything you want to say? I know you have lots to say with this.
I think initially the realization that a lot of the resources that FMs would have asked for over the years, I think now they may stand a better chance of getting it based on taking that data off of that service desk and informing your organization of the impacts of the changes in this current climate and how it has impacted us. I think you'll see more building service engineers appearing in the scheme of things, because now you have data centers that are now critical to the digital transformation that's about to take place. I can see definitely some consultants will be coming out of the woodwork for sure, so that there will be a greater level of companies out there that will be offering training for both your custodians and even your in-house staff. I think that beyond that, the dynamic of having a facilities assistant who is more technologically savvy in terms of the ability to use a handheld device in the future, as we look at that whole concept of the Internet of Things, use a device out there and update it, and you get real-time information going to all of the key stakeholders in the organization. That is important. I do see more project managers coming out of it, more project supervision. That's definitely a job area that I can see coming out, because now more and more emphasis is going to be placed on the quality and the value that we get from all the plans that we're trying to implement, and what happens on the ground. Because at the end of the day, is only that is where the impact is felt the most. So a couple of companies, I think, may come out with some interesting gadgets, because we're seeing so many changing technologies coming out on the market now for measuring temperature. We started off with the handheld instruments. Yes. Now we have different standing and wall-mounted imaging instruments. I think all of that is going to make the experience in the next 5 years in terms of facilities a lot more easier to automate, a lot more easier to get buy-in and support. I do think that that the budgeting arrangement that would normally be rolled out by FMs will also have some resources added to it. You may not necessarily have the jobs appearing in FM, but you may have them appearing in other departments where personnel are added for different reasons to be able to analyze the information a lot better. So our recurrent budgets and our capital budgets will have greater relevance to the core business. So everyone's looking at that dollar. Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. So some very interesting points here with new jobs. Mario, Cindy, anything with new jobs? I know you all contributed a lot with the new business, but anything you like to say?
Well, I'd just like to endorse what Steve says. I mean, I am looking towards, you know, the innovation aspects of this scenario that we're in right now, in terms of how companies, more so from the supply chain perspective, in terms of how companies can make products that may be more economically viable, that may be more, you know, so that maybe there's more competition in the environment. Because again, with this COVID now, you are going through a very difficult economic time worldwide. So funding may not always be available to purchase the most expensive item. So you want companies to innovate, to be able to make access and make products more accessible for the users on the market. I'm also seeing, and where there is a change in perspective, if I can say that now, a change in perspective on the FM facility professional in organizations, whereby it was more seen as Steve would have said before, Mario, I think it was, as a cost center, to where the real value now was being placed, or I should say more value being placed on the FM input in industries going forward. So as FMs now, again, we have to make sure that we are trained, that we are ready, that we are able to really live up and take that lead as is presented to us in this industry right now.
So definitely some new skills in facility management and property management because of the low touch economy and innovation. Some major skills come in here. Mario, yes?
Yeah, so I endorse fully what Steve and Cindy have contributed. Definitely, I can see the need for more multidisciplinary persons entering the FM arena. And on the technological side of things, I guess, yes, the need for tech-savvy young individuals will definitely transform the growth of the industry. So yeah, I definitely see the growth of FM consulting, especially where technical persons, as we're talking about digital transformation and technology, those technical persons will be more required to make assessments, get involved with property managers, building owners, to help guide decision making, and even to implement the project itself. So there's opportunity for project management, specialized project management in that regard. And with all the influx of FM services surrounding this new phase of post-COVID phase that we're in, definitely I see a push for ISO 41001 implementation, because with all the new services and companies being formed, they're going to seek to be standardized.
Thank you, Mario. So you keep that for another webinar, right? The ISO standards, right? That we will discuss, and how we need now to do this more than ever, right? The standards to be implemented in property and real estate management of facilities. Very correct. So thank you, presenters. Many things coming from this conversation, how property and real estate management, facilities management actually changing, how new innovation products, new business ideas, consultancy come in, training, very important aspect. And, a couple points here when we discuss so much about upskilling and, new skills that we have to learn, I should say, new skills that we have to learn in our industry to make us even more innovative, to make us smarter, smart buildings, to operate the BIM, as you said, BIM, the building management system, different handheld devices, data management, asset management, different skills that we have to know now, whether we are working within our organization or are we selling these products now to organizations, and project management, all these different apps that Steve, you mentioned. A couple points here, one main point actually, I should say. It triggered something in my head, which is learn. We have to learn. We actually have to unlearn, and we have to relearn. So we have to learn in our profession. We have to learn. We are learning. We learn. We have to even unlearn some of the things, right? And definitely we have to relearn. So I wish to thank you, the presenters, for contributing to this conversation. I had a lot of questions coming in, so I know we again have to continue with this conversation in some upcoming webinars. I ask everybody to come back here again next week, Tuesday, as we continue the webinar series for digital transformation, again with property and real estate management, but again, how different technologies will contribute to the circular economy system. So thank you again, everyone. Thank you for the viewers. Thank you for the presenters. And until we meet again, thank you very much. And next time, virtual coffee, or yeah, it's got to be virtual coffee, right? Thanks again, everybody. Until we meet again. Thanks again.
Thank you, Shivani.